I think this segues perfectly into one of the topics that we have today about Mike Vrabel. It came out that Mike Vrabel has become the de facto offensive line coach for the Cleveland Browns. Now, look, they had Andy Dickerson. You hired to replace Bill Callahan. Andy Dickerson rejoined the Browns as offensive line coach in 2024. He spent 2 seasons from 2009 to 2010 with the team, including serving as assistant offensive line coach in 2010. He's 19th season as NFL coach, and his last stint was with the Seattle Seahawks in 2022 and 2023. Now, here's why you say, G. Bush, why does this matter? Well, you hired Andy Dickerson, and you hired another run game coordinator that came from college, first time coordinator in the NFL, came from UConn. You got 2 of these guys, right? And you take a look at where the running game has gone. I mean, it's non-existent. Every single week we got to talk about why the Cleveland Browns can't run the ball, and it's bad. And Kevin Stefanski, who he picks on his staff, that's on him. Those guys report to him. He brought those guys in. He vetted those guys. Those are the direct picks on his staff. And for the simple fact that nobody knew that Mike Vrabel basically has become the de facto offensive line coordinator. Dustin, you played in the league. How often have you ever in the middle of the season,
the consultant,
the film consultant guy or the tape guy or anybody just say, yeah, I know that was your DB coach, but yeah, I'm in charge now. Let's go. Let's draw this up. Let's get a cloud call up here. Does this happen?
I mean, I've been around football my whole life. I mean, crazier things have happened. This doesn't surprise me. I've seen also. I mean, it's Vrabel, so the guy could probably do any job, better than probably what they have. You know what I mean? So the title is interesting. Yeah, it is interesting.
Like, hey, here's your new O-line coach.
I just wonder if it's a big deal internally, or if we just make it a big deal about it.
I'll say this: if they were winning and the line looked great, we wouldn't care.
Yeah.
So, like, did Andy Dickerson quietly get fired? Like, is he still a part of the staff? This is what you're talking about, right? Out the blue, we find out Mike Vrabel, who's been a consultant since the beginning of the season as the offensive line coach. Where's the offensive line coach that was hired?
What is he doing?
What is he doing?
Switch roles?
Don't worry, though. We got that new video about that dome.
Yeah,
I think this has to speak to the big picture of the disorganization of the entire function, right? Everything.
It makes me like you don't see like, and I hate comparing yourself to other people because other people's situation is different, but the Steelers don't be demoting nobody. They're like. Alan, like the things that go in the inner working of the staff are very, I don't know, they're questionable to me because last year you got rid of Van Pelt. That was one thing. You bring Dorsey in. You were calling the plays, then you give the plays to Dorsey. That's another transition. All right, well, you got offensive line coach and the run game coordinator. You had 2 guys in place that was going to work with it. That ain't working. Let's switch that up. Let's put him over here. To me, when you, like cohesiveness, when you talk about, okay, I'm going to make a decision, I'm going to stand on it, and we're going to try to figure it out. There's a lot of changes that's confusing to me, and especially when you know, you talk to the players, and the players say, hey, are we on the same page? No. Myles Garrett talks about they're not on the same page. Also, on top of this, you know, there's things that come out from the coaching staff like a couple of years ago where they said, hey, you know, Jamar Chase went out of the game. Really messed us up. You said, what? What are you talking about? Yeah, we had a game plan ready, and Jamar Chase, he kind of went out of the game, and you know that kind of messed us up. We kind of you say, how does Jamar Chase, one of the best receivers, not being on the field, how does that mess you up, Coach?
It would help you.
It would help you. What are you talking about? These are the things that scare me because I want regular plug and play. You know what your responsibility is. One voice, one band, one sound. Let's go play and get it done. it just seems like it's a lot of things in flux, guys.
It just makes me wonder how important was Bill Callahan to Stefanski's, overall staff. They did him a solid letting him go, coach with his son. But you just look at this staff overall, and it's a lot of things that make you scratch your head. He ran to replace Mike Prefer with Bubba Ventrone as if Bubba Ventrone was the special teams guru. And this special teams unit has been one of the worst units in the NFL, right? I think Stump Mitchell, there was rumors going on about why he got replaced, but the players responded to Stump. You replace your tight ends coach. I don't know why David Njoku was coming off a Pro Bowl year, but you keep your wide receivers coach when the wide receiver is probably the most suspect position on the offense, or one of them, right? You bring in Dorsey, that was a failed experiment. You bring in Andy Dickerson, that was a failed experiment. It's like you look at his staff as a whole, nobody is being held accountable for nothing. And I think that's the most frustrating thing. Jimmy won't hold Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski accountable. Kevin seemed like he don't want to hold his staff accountable. Nobody is holding nobody accountable, and this is probably one of many reasons why the season has turned out to be what it is.
I literally, and I used to think people was crazy when they would say it. I really think that they're going to run it back, Dustin. I think that they're going to run it back, and they're not going to make any changes a lot of places. I literally think that they are going to run it back with the front office, coaching staff, and the way that this team is built in the cap situation. I don't even think that they're going to have major new upgrades at all these different places. I literally think that they are in the midst of showing us that they're running it back.
I mean, that's fine. They can do that. They can continue to do this, kick the can down the road with this team. I'm just kind of like the Pearl over here. Apathy is setting in for me. It's setting in for a lot of people that I know that are bigger fans than I am.
Well, let me ask you, why is it so? I want to get to this point because I think this is fascinating. Why is it different today than some of the horrible years? You was a 1-31 guy. You were working.
Oh, yeah.
Why is it different today for you?
I don't know, man. I watched yesterday's game and it felt like that was about as rock bottom as it gets. And we watched the 0-16. We watched the 1-31. I think it was 1-33 if you went back to the previous year.
Yep.
And that was a really, really rough patch. But at least in those eras or those years, those teams, we knew how the players had no chance. They completely tore it down to studs. This was supposed to be a good team.
Yeah.
They were supposed to be good.
Yeah.
And there's still those players that we thought were supposed to be good. A lot of them are still playing and played yesterday.
Earl, why is this different from the other times?
Expectations. Like Dustin just said, we knew we was going 0-16. We knew we was going 1-15. At one point, we had Kaiser, Kessler, and some other quarterback who had a combined 0 career wins in the NFL. You knew you're not going to win much when you have players like that. But you sold us faith and hope on this 5-year plan. And myself, I said this team was going to play in the AFC Championship game this year. I got real bold with it at the beginning of the season because I thought the continuity, chemistry, I thought that you can build off of what you did last year. But in reality, all that happened was the Browns got exposed for being frauds. Yeah. If we're being all the way real with you, when you put out your best foot, when you put your best foot forward and you put your best out there, and then over the offseason, offensive and defensive coordinators can look at what you do and come up with a game plan, and you can't even counter to whatever that plan is, it shows that what you had from the beginning was never built to last anyway.
And
I think you guys are both right, and you hit it on the head, but I do want to add into something. It was the hope. Like when we went 1-15 and we went 0-16, we knew there were going to be changes made. We knew there were going to be high draft picks to go for. We had hope that we could turn this around, and then when we saw that playoff run with Baker, we saw it coming together, and that expectation was then set. And now, what, 2 years later, 3 years later in total, it's all come crashing back down, and we don't have hope of a change. We don't have hope of bringing somebody in here right now to just turn this all around. Everybody says the quarterbacks are kind of mid this year. I don't know if I trust Shedeur or Cam. So it's all about the hope and the expectations together.
But you know what though, like, you know, we talking about faith and hope as it pertains to sports, and as fans, we're human beings, and in real life, we have all been through real situations and circumstances to where your faith and your hope, it wavers some, right? You're not as hopeful, you're not as faithful that things is going to be okay, and that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And as it pertains to this football team, I just think that's where a lot of people are, right? You know, on the radio, we talk to a lot of Browns fans, 50, 60 years old, who are overly frustrated, who's been watching this team since the 70s and 80s. They don't want to deal with it no more. Me, I'm only 37. I don't want to put that type of stress on my life for the next 20-something years if I don't have to. It is so hard to remain with the same type of energy when you're constantly get something thrown in your face that you know ain't good for you, that you know is not working. How can you expect us to come up and get up with the same energy every single game, every single season, when it just seems like it's getting worse and worse as the weeks pass? And you know what's the crazy part about it, about those expectations? When the Browns hired Kevin Stefanski and they went to the playoffs in 2020 during COVID, I thought it was only up from there, because this is a new head coach. You took this team to the playoffs and these type of circumstances when you couldn't be around the players. In my mind, it's like, man, when things come back to semi-normal and he has the opportunity to be in the building around these dudes, bro, we about to take off. We ain't finna have no losing seasons for a while. I was wrong.
Yeah, I think that hurts a lot, because at least we thought that we would get to a point where it was a situation where we wouldn't have to go through them same growing pains. We've all had it in life where, you know, like, can you imagine having to go through puberty like every 5 to 10 years? Like, I'd be like, man, my voice is cracking, I got acne, I'm emotional, like I'm insecure, I'm depressed half the time. Like, at least you can look back at some points of your childhood and say, you know what, I thought my childhood was bad, but I was just going through some stuff like everybody did. And at least now I done found my stride. Like, I'm cool, like I'm good, like I get that. But the Browns keep having to go through puberty every 5, 6 years. Like, it's wild to watch, and you're just like, I thought I was done with the 3 wins. Like, if you gave, and I think what people don't get is, the reason we didn't beat the drum so loud for Stefanski when he had those back-to-back losing seasons was the fact that he was still giving us 7 wins, right? It was still 7. It was still 8 wins here or there. If you gave the Browns for even 6 wins, even 6 is
we was
like
competitive still.
It was a competitive 6. You saw where the pieces is coming, but it's dark outside. It's dark. It ain't no street lights on. Like, there ain't really you can't lean on a quarterback. You can't lean on the hope of going to draft somebody. At least when they went and drafted Manziel, right? They won the press conference. They won that. When they had Odell, y'all won the press conference. He gave us a bat. We got Odell. We got the biggest star in the NFL. When they got Baker, and Baker was balling and doing his thing, we like, oh man, we got to do. Baker don't care about nobody. Like, he's throwing the middle finger at everybody. At least you had something to hang your hat on. Now we got milquetoast. We don't got the quarterback. Nick Chubb is hurt for the year. The line is looking old. They saying they not gonna fire none of the people that got these terrible picks. And you sitting here and they say, oh, by the way, we own the Milwaukee Bucks. By the way, we want some money for this dome too, fellas. It don't sit right with your soul. It just don't. And that's why I thank the Lord for the new year, and I thank the Lord for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
You know, Jimmy is very impulsive, very emotional himself, though. Like, it wouldn't surprise me that we didn't heard this whole time everybody is safe. Watch after we get past week 18, it's going to come out Peyton Manning is meeting with Jimmy to become the Browns' next consultant.
Every report I
see.
He's too busy messing with my Broncos. He's fine.
Yeah, leave
him be.
He's not doing that.
I'm with Dustin. Like, you got to ignore those reports, man, because I still find it hard to believe that you finna run it back with everybody, and you finish the season 3-14, and you trying to sell faith and hope to your fan base. I just don't. I could be wrong. I just don't see it.
Yeah. The other thing before we switch gears and talk some Cavs. Did you guys watch the game and watch Stefanski on the sidelines yesterday?
Yes.
I did not get the sense at all. It was almost like he had no bearing on the game. It was like he was just there.
Yeah. It it's almost that's why I say it's a little frustrating because it's almost like he's had the conversation where it's like, yeah, you're good. This is what we're trying to do. So he's just over there just like this. Yeah, DTR's throwing picks. Offense is trash, but it doesn't matter. Like and I think that coupled with this, and I think this is another reason the vitriol is so high, is when you have your head coach acting like that, plus the news comes out that people are outraged that you're still got Deshaun Watson and he's still messing around. He's still got contract extensions. I know y'all seen the internet go crazy.
He's not coaching for his job. That's what it is.
The internet went nuts last week, right? Like